Hello, my name is Riley Wooler, and this is my Professional Selling 2 final project video about the entire semester. So it started off where I didn't really know what to expect from the class. I knew we were going to go through the sales process. I knew we were going to learn a lot about it. I didn't expect how much I really got out of it, though. Before I get into all that, I want to say a few things about the class specifically. It's not a structured class, which I personally enjoyed because I don't think I would have gotten the full experience out of it if I was super worried about deadlines. It felt very natural. It had a nice flow to it. The professor, Dr. Brauer, communicated great about if we needed help, he was there, about reminding us about the other assignments other than just going through the sales process, which I'll get to in a minute. And overall, it was a class that I really, really enjoyed. And I mean, don't get me wrong, every class has their bumps, which this one definitely did, which I will get into when I get to the sales process part of it all. But first day of class, he was super upfront about what he expected, about what the class entailed. And from there, we had a lot of guest speakers who provided us a lot of insight about what it's like to actually be in the real world and working in sales, which I personally enjoyed just because I have a lot of nerves about leaving college and getting into my career. So that was something that I really enjoyed. Throughout the entire semester, we did go through the sales process, start to finish. And he didn't really tell us what to do. It wasn't necessarily like we were being told, you have to do X, Y, and Z. It was, this is where you're starting. Here is the goal. And how you get there, I will guide you, but I'm not telling you. Which I found very difficult to wrap my head around in the beginning because I hadn't had much exposure to sales prior to this class. So I was definitely a little nervous about how my grade would end up, or was I doing this right? Is this acceptable? Is this not? But once I got over that, that's when things really started to kick into gear for me. We were put into groups. My group had 5 people in it. Amazing group. My partners worked with me. I worked with them. We helped each other every step of the way. We complained about what we didn't like. We raved about what we did. We worked through issues together. We didn't just leave each other high and dry. And I think that's something that in the real world, when I'm working with the sales team, I hope and I pray that I have, because that really did help all of us get through it. So once we were put into those groups, we were assigned a company, and ours was Neo Tropical Beverages, which I personally loved working with. We got to work with a woman named April, and she was so much fun, so lighthearted, so helpful, and really just wanted to see us succeed, which I think is hard to find in a company where they're really like, you do this, and they're putting their trust in you. But she did a great job helping us. I think in the beginning, there could have been a little bit more communication between Dr. Brauer and her about what the concept was of our class in this project, just because she was kind of putting us on a marketing path, and we really needed to be on that sales path. We needed to have every ounce and minute of that time because we hadn't done this before, so we needed that trial and error process. So once we were able to let her know that we needed to be on this sales track and not the marketing track, everything was smooth sailing from there. Everybody in my group, we started out with our prospecting, putting together people who we think would be open to this, people who wouldn't, but that we thought could still be worth giving it a shot. And a lot of us took different areas. So someone took gyms and the health side of it. Someone took restaurants or family restaurants. Others took Greek life or sports life, like the NCAA. Me personally, I decided to take bars. We were working with a tropical beverage company, and we're college students. Everybody around us is going out to the bars every weekend. I work at a bar, so I thought it was the perfect way to kind of incorporate the life that we all live every day and this project. And it ended up being such a great road to go down because that ended up being how we got our sale for the project, which I thought was really cool to see that start when I think back about the start to finish process of it all. The prospecting was not the easiest part of the project, but it was definitely the most learning I got out of it. I learned that you're gonna get no's. You may think it's going to be a no, but you have to try anyways, because you never really know if it's going to be a yes or they're gonna hang up on you, something like that when you make that cold call. So putting together the prospect list, I had about 15 prospects by the end of it, was interesting because I spread out my search for prospects throughout Pittsburgh, the suburbs surrounding it, and Morgantown. Those are the areas that I'm familiar with, so I knew I already had a prior knowledge of who I was going to reach out to or who I should reach out to. My other team members also kind of stayed in their comfort zone. Obviously, in the real world, we're not going to do that. We're going to be pushed. But for this project, I think it definitely helped us being a little bit more comfortable with that part of the project. The prospects ended up being the people that we were making those cold calls to. I made about 5 or 6 cold calls, phone calls, and then others were through emails and text messages. Some were both, as you'll hear a little bit. Just because some people, I didn't have access to their phone number. Some people, I only had access to their email. And that ended up being something that I had to figure out, okay, is it even worth it to send an email? Are they even going to see it? It's always worth it, is what I learned. It is always, always, always worth it. You don't know what they're going to say, so just do it. And then we went into cold calling after that. I had, like I said, those 4 or 5 cold calls, and the one cold call ended up being with a woman named Bree Wyson, who is the owner of Fat Daddy's Bar and Grill here in Morgantown. I got her phone number through a friend that I know that works at her bar, and she ended up being the prospect that helped me and my group get our sale. I reached out to her over text message first, just to kind of let her know, because she had already been in contact with the bartender named Hannah, and she didn't answer my first text. That's where I got that hesitation of, oh, they're going to say no. But then 2 days later, I reached back out, I followed up, and she answered. She sent me a text back saying that she would love to set up a time to talk. I only gave a little bit of background about the company that we were working with in the text message. That way she could really hear what NEU was all about on the phone. So then the next day we set up a phone call. It was a little bit later in the evening, around 7, just because that's when she's going into work, as she works at a bar. And she was super open to the idea. All she wanted to know was why we were doing it, what the company was about, and what she would need to do to help us succeed. She was very open to helping us succeed more than her own success, which I thought was really cool. I wasn't expecting that from a company that wasn't a part of this to begin with. So then on that phone call, she agreed for me to drop off some samples and they were going to taste them. And I ended up bringing enough samples that if they did like it, they could start playing around with drinks then and there. She sent me a message later that night that her and her staff loved the drinks and they already started playing around with making cocktails. So then from there, we set up the event on a Taco Tuesday, because those are the events that they have on Tuesdays. April 22nd it was. They had 3 drinks, one for each of the juices. She had all kinds of marketing for it on social media. She had little table tents that had the pictures of the juices on them surrounding the bar. They were everywhere. And she was really great with communicating with me, like, hey, this one sold better than this one. And I dropped off a lot of supplies for her just in case they really were a hit. Now, college students are a little bit pickier with their drinks. They get the same thing every time, so trying something new isn't necessarily what they're going to be doing on a Tuesday night. But we ended up selling at that event 35 drinks and $150 in sales, which I was pretty proud of. I was not expecting it to be a lot of success. I mean, I had faith in it, but I don't know. I've never done this before. So seeing how all my hard work and my group's hard work and us helping each other, us all going to the event as a team, that was probably the best part of the entire project, just seeing it all come together. And we did get some feedback, and we were talking to some people who were drinking it, and they seemed to really like it. I got to talk a little bit with one of the managers there, Jerry, who actually helped make those drinks. So he thought it was really cool that we came in and we kind of just said, hey, let's do it, because he hasn't had any students or anybody come in and be that upfront and say, let's get it done that quickly. He was really impressed with our turnaround and our communication, which I took as like a huge compliment, because at the end of the day, that is what sales is. You have to be able to communicate. You have to follow up. And so that was basically our entire sales process. We did absolutely amazing, in my opinion. Now, don't get me wrong, every success has their downfalls, and we did. We had to figure out the communication. We had to figure out what path we were going on. We ran into bumps about getting the actual samples to drop off to them and getting the supplies in time. There's always going to be those bumps, but I'm glad that I was exposed to it now versus when I'm out in the real world. If I had any suggestion for this class in the future, maybe just communicating with the companies a little bit better about the professor's expectations. I think April just didn't realize what Dr. Brauer's expectations were. And once we got through that, that was really the biggest bump that had us really set back there for a minute. But other than that, I can't see it being any more structured, because with the way that the sales process goes, it needs to flow. You need to be comfortable with it. You can't have deadlines where you don't know if these people are going to get back to you in time to meet that deadline, no matter how many times you call or how many times you text them or email them. So I think that if Dr. Brauer were to add more of a restriction to it, I don't think the people would get the same experience out of it that they did. And then they would also be worrying about getting the assignments in on time on top of the sales process. So I think the flexibility in this class definitely made it even more enjoyable, and I was also able to absorb more because I could focus on what I needed to in the moment, not what Dr. Brauer wanted in that moment. Overall, I absolutely loved this class. I wouldn't change a thing. I've already raved about it to so many people. I'm probably going to keep doing that. So thank you, Dr. Brauer. Thank you, April. Thank you to my team. I am so grateful that I had such an amazing team. And that's about it. That was my sales process. I thought it went great, and I'm happy about it. So thank you.